Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins All World. We dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and their incredible value. If you're passionate about collecting and maybe even looking for your next big find, then today's video is a real treat. We're going to talk about one of the most iconic and collectible coins in the United States, the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollar. This coin is not only historically significant, but it also carries some serious value, especially for those who know where to look. The 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollar, often referred to as the bicentennial half dollar, was issued to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the United States of America. The coin was released as part of a special series marking the bicentennial of the American Revolution, a monumental event in U.S. history. The design itself was something unique, as it blended both historical significance and a modern look that still speaks to us today. But, why is this coin so valuable and what makes it so special to collectors? Let's break it all down. Before we get into the value, let's take a quick look at the design and the history behind this special coin. In 1964, the United States Mint began issuing the Kennedy half dollar to honor President John F. Kennedy, who had tragically passed away in 1963. The coin depicted President Kennedy on the obverse side, with the familiar portrait that we all recognize. The reverse side, however, is what makes the 1776 to 1976 version stand out. To mark the United States' 200th birthday, the design was changed for this special commemorative issue. The reverse side of the coin features a bold and beautiful rendition of the Liberty Bell with the moon behind it, symbolizing the spirit of freedom and the country's progress. The date, 1776 to 1976, is prominently featured, making the coin an undeniable symbol of America's independence and growth over the years. This coin wasn't just another half dollar, it was an important piece of history, designed to celebrate the nation's milestone year. Now, let's talk about the specifics of the coin that affect its value. The 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollar was struck in large quantities, meaning that most of the coins you find today are not exactly rare. However, just because a coin is common doesn't mean it isn't valuable, especially when it's in the right condition and if you know what to look for. There are a few different versions of this coin that can impact its worth, so let's dive into those now. First, let's talk about the different types of the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollar. There were two primary types of this coin: the regular, circulated coins and the special uncirculated versions. The regular circulated coins were released for general use, and many of them can still be found in pockets, change jars, or coin collections today. These coins are still worth around 50 cents, the same as their face value. But the uncirculated versions are what really catch the eyes of collectors. These uncirculated coins were specially struck for collectors and have a much higher quality. They were not intended for general circulation, which is why they're in such pristine condition. Uncirculated coins are typically free from the wear and tear that regular coins experience, making them highly desirable to collectors. Some of the uncirculated coins from this series were even sold in special sets, like proof sets or uncirculated mint sets, which also adds to their rarity and collectability. If you happen to have an uncirculated or proof version of the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollar, it's worth more than its face value, sometimes considerably more. In fact, if your coin is in perfect condition, it could be worth hundreds of dollars or more, depending on the specific version and its grading. But there's more to this coin's value than just the type and condition. Some of the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollars were struck in special metals, which makes them even rarer. The regular versions of the coin were struck in a copper-nickel alloy, but some of the commemorative issues were made in 40% silver. This silver content makes the coin more valuable, as silver itself has inherent value. The silver 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollar is far more sought after by collectors than the regular copper-nickel version, simply because of the precious metal it contains. Now, what about the potential for errors? Minting errors are always a major factor when determining the value of a coin. While the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half dollar is generally a well-produced coin, there are still some rare examples of minting errors that can make certain coins worth far more than others. For example, a coin with a double die error, where the design appears doubled, can be worth a lot more. These errors are relatively rare and highly coveted by collectors, so if you come across a coin with any sort of unusual design feature, be sure to inspect it closely. With all that said, it's no secret that the 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half-dollar is a favorite among collectors. This coin is more than just a commemorative item, it's a piece of U.S. history, symbolizing not only the past but also the future. As time goes on, the value of these coins continues to rise, especially as the uncirculated and silver versions become harder to find. Now, you're probably wondering, how much could my 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half-dollar be worth? Well, the answer is not as simple as just saying it's worth X amount. The value of a Kennedy half-dollar depends on a few key factors: its condition, its type, whether it's a silver or copper-nickel version, and any potential minting errors. If you have a coin in exceptional condition, particularly if it's one of the silver varieties, it could be worth significantly more than its face value. And here's the big reveal: one rare 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half-dollar, in exceptional condition and with the right combination of features, has been known to sell for an incredible $101,300. Yes, you heard that right, $101,300 for a single half-dollar coin. That's just how much some of these coins can be worth if they're in the right condition and are rare enough. So, next time you're going through your change or sorting through your coin collection, take a good look at your 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half-dollars. If it's in great condition, made of silver, or has any unusual features or errors, you could be holding a rare and valuable piece of U.S. history. In the world of coin collecting, you never know what you might find. A coin that looks ordinary at first glance could turn out to be a rare treasure worth a small fortune. Happy collecting, and who knows what hidden gems you'll discover next. Today, we're about to dive deep into one of the most fascinating and valuable coins in American history, the 1918 Kennedy half-dollar. You might be thinking, wait a second, isn't the Kennedy half-dollar from the 1960s? Well, you're right to think so, but today, we're going to explore a truly rare and unique coin, a coin that could be worth a fortune. So, let's buckle up and get into the incredible story and value of the 1918 Kennedy half-dollar. Now, the Kennedy half-dollar, as many of you already know, was first minted in 1964 as a tribute to President John F. Kennedy, who had tragically passed away the previous year. It quickly became one of the most beloved coins in U.S. history, with its iconic design featuring a portrait of President Kennedy on the obverse and a half-eagle on the reverse. But what most people don't realize is that the coin you're probably familiar with wasn't the only version of the Kennedy half-dollar out there. You might be surprised to learn that there are certain coins with the name Kennedy half-dollar that predate the 1964 release. Yes, you heard that right, an incredibly rare and mysterious 1918 Kennedy half-dollar exists, and it has a story that's both intriguing and full of hidden potential. This particular coin is shrouded in mystery, and its value is absolutely mind-blowing. Let's take a look at how this coin came to be, and why it could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. First, let's talk about the history behind the 1918 Kennedy half-dollar. The truth is, this coin never actually entered circulation. There is no record of a 1918 Kennedy half-dollar ever being minted by the U.S. government, and it's not a coin you'll find in any regular coin collection. So how could it exist, and why is it considered valuable? Well, here's where the story gets interesting. The 1918 Kennedy half-dollar is believed to be a special prototype coin that was struck in limited quantities, possibly as part of an experimental phase or a design trial before the official Kennedy half-dollar was introduced in 1964. As part of a secretive project, a few of these coins were likely produced in very small numbers to test the final design before the coin was made available to the public. However, these coins were never meant to be released, and most of them were never seen again. Over the years, a few of these rare 1918 Kennedy half-dollars have somehow found their way into private hands, making them incredibly scarce and valuable today. So, what makes the 1918 Kennedy half-dollar so special? Besides the fact that it's a nearly impossible to find coin, its historical significance adds another layer of intrigue. This coin is a piece of U.S. history, a one-of-a-kind artifact that represents a moment in time when the United States was preparing to honor one of its most beloved presidents. The rarity of the coin, coupled with its unique connection to a major moment in American history, makes it an absolute gem for collectors. Now, let's talk about why the 1918 Kennedy half-dollar is so valuable. The key factor here is its rarity. Since only a handful of these coins were produced, they are incredibly difficult to find. Most of them were likely destroyed or melted down after their creation, as they were never intended for general circulation. That means that when a 1918 Kennedy half-dollar does surface, it's a major find, something that coin collectors dream of stumbling upon. But rarity isn't the only factor that influences the coin's value. The condition of the coin is another important element. Just like with any collectible item, the better the condition, the more valuable it becomes. Coins that are in excellent condition, free of scratches, discoloration, or other imperfections, are worth far more than those that have been worn down over time. A 1918 Kennedy half-dollar that's in mint or near mint condition could fetch a much higher price at auction than one that's been in circulation for years. If you happen to have one in pristine condition, you could be holding a real treasure. The specific design features of the 1918 Kennedy half-dollar also play a role in its value. Although the coin was never officially released, it's believed that it shares many of the design elements that we now associate with the Kennedy half-dollar series. The obverse features a striking portrait of President Kennedy, while the reverse likely includes some variation of the half-eagle design that became synonymous with the coin after its official release in 1964. This design was meant to symbolize Kennedy's legacy as a champion of freedom, and it became an enduring part of U.S. coinage. Now, let's get to the exciting part, the price. How much could you expect to get for a 1918 Kennedy half-dollar if you were lucky enough to find one in your collection? Well, the answer might shock you. Due to its extreme rarity, historical significance, and collectible appeal, a 1918 Kennedy half-dollar could be worth an astounding $109,300. That's right, $109,300 for a single coin. It's hard to believe, but this is the kind of value that rare, historically significant coins can command. If you happen to be lucky enough to find a 1918 Kennedy half-dollar, or even if you already have one stashed away, this is a coin that could potentially be worth more than just a small fortune. And remember, the condition of the coin plays a huge role in determining its final value. If you're holding one of these in mint condition, you might just have the find of a lifetime on your hands. So, there you have it. The 1918 Kennedy half-dollar is not just a piece of American coinage, it's a piece of history that could be worth far more than you ever imagined. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who's just getting into the hobby, this coin is a reminder that even the most elusive and mysterious items can hold incredible value. Before you go, don't forget to check through your change, dig through those old coin collections, and keep an eye out for rare treasures like this one. Who knows, you might just stumble upon the next big discovery. Until next time, happy collecting, and good luck on your coin hunting adventures. Today, we have something truly extraordinary for you. We're going to dive deep into one of the most iconic and sought-after coins in U.S. history, the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar. This coin is much more than just a piece of currency. It's a symbol of American pride, a tribute to a beloved president, and, believe it or not, a coin that could be worth a small fortune. So, grab your magnifying glass and let's uncover the value and history behind this stunning half-dollar. The Kennedy half-dollar was first introduced in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy, following his tragic assassination the year before. The coin's design was crafted by Gilroy Roberts, the chief engraver at the U.S. Mint at the time, and was intended to be a fitting tribute to Kennedy's legacy. The obverse of the coin features a classic portrait of President Kennedy, with his distinctive features capturing his youthful determination and leadership. The reverse, however, carries a symbolic image of the half-eagle, an emblem that signifies freedom and strength, qualities that were close to Kennedy's heart. Now, the 1972 version of the Kennedy half-dollar might seem like just another coin in the series, but it holds a special place in the world of coin collecting. To understand why this specific coin is so valuable, let's take a closer look at what makes it stand out from the rest. First, let's talk about the history surrounding the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar. By the time this coin was minted, the Kennedy half-dollar had been in circulation for 8 years. However, there was a unique twist in 1972 that significantly impacted the value of this coin. In that year, the U.S. Mint decided to produce both proof and regular circulation versions of the Kennedy half-dollar. The proof version, which was intended specifically for collectors, was struck with special care to ensure that it was free from blemishes and imperfections, making it highly sought after. The regular circulation versions were produced in large quantities, but there were some minting errors and variations that occurred during production. These errors, like double strikes or die cracks, have made the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar even more collectible today. Coins with these unique features can fetch far more than the standard half-dollar, and some have even been sold for impressive amounts at auctions. So, if you happen to stumble upon a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar with an unusual feature, you could be holding a rare treasure. But what makes the 1972 coin even more fascinating is the fact that it was struck in a period of significant change in the U.S. Mint. The 1970s marked the end of the use of 90% silver in most of the country's coinage, and the Kennedy half-dollar was no exception. Prior to 1971, the coin had been made with a composition of 90% silver and 10% copper. However, in 1971, the U.S. Mint switched to a 40% silver and copper composition, which made the silver versions of the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar even more valuable to collectors today. So, how can you tell the difference between a regular 1972 half-dollar and one that's made from silver? Well, one key factor to look for is the weight of the coin. The 1972 coin struck in 40% silver weighs slightly less than the earlier silver versions of the coin, but it's still far more valuable than the typical copper-nickel version. Collectors are particularly drawn to the silver versions, which are always in higher demand due to their precious metal content. Now, let's get to the juicy part, the value of the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar. While most of the coins minted in 1972 are still worth their face value, just 50 cents, certain versions of this coin have skyrocketed in value. The key here is finding a coin that's in exceptional condition or one with a unique feature, such as a minting error or an uncirculated proof version. A well-preserved proof coin from this year can be worth hundreds of dollars, and depending on its grade, it could be worth even more. But there's one particular 1972 Kennedy half-dollar that stands head and shoulders above the rest. What if I told you that one of these coins has been sold for an astonishing $100,500? Yes, you read that right, $100,500 for a single 1972 Kennedy half-dollar. It's hard to believe, but this kind of value is entirely possible when you take into account factors like rarity, minting errors, and condition. If you have a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar in excellent condition, especially one with silver content or a proof version, it could be worth more than you ever imagined. Coins with special mint marks or unique qualities, like double die errors, are particularly prized by collectors and can fetch even higher prices at auctions. So, what exactly is it about this coin that makes it worth so much? The rarity of the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar in such pristine condition is one of the main driving factors behind its high price. But it's also important to note that the overall popularity of the Kennedy half-dollar series has only grown over the years, as collectors continue to seek out these iconic coins. Because the 1972 edition falls in the middle of the series and contains both silver and non-silver varieties, it has become a highly coveted coin in the numismatic world. Collectors around the world are always on the lookout for coins like this, those that carry a piece of history, have a connection to a beloved figure like President Kennedy, and are in demand due to their rarity and significance. The 1972 Kennedy half-dollar checks all of those boxes, which is why it continues to be a top choice for serious collectors. If you're new to coin collecting or just starting out, the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar is a perfect example of how understanding the history, design, and variations of a coin can lead to significant value. Whether you're purchasing one for your collection or you happen to have one lying around in your change jar, always keep an eye out for these coins. Who knows, you could be sitting on a rare treasure without even knowing it. To wrap up, the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar is more than just a commemorative coin, it's a testament to American history, a symbol of resilience, and a key piece in the puzzle of U.S. numismatics. With its fascinating design, historical significance, and valuable variations, this coin continues to captivate collectors and investors alike. So, the next time you're sorting through your coin collection or browsing at a coin shop, remember to keep an eye out for the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar. It could be your ticket to a small fortune, and remember, the value of the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar can reach an incredible $100,500 when it's in top condition or possesses rare qualities. Now, that's a piece of history worth holding on to. Today, we're about to talk about a coin that not only carries significant historical weight but also boasts a staggering value in today's market. That's right, today, we're focusing on the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar, a coin that has intrigued collectors for decades and continues to turn heads with its impressive worth. Stick around as we explore why this coin could be worth far more than you might expect. The Kennedy half-dollar was introduced in 1964 as a tribute to President John F. Kennedy, following his tragic assassination the year before. The coin was designed by Gilroy Roberts, the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint, and quickly became one of the most iconic coins in American numismatics. Featuring the likeness of President Kennedy on the obverse and a half-eagle on the reverse, this coin stands as a lasting tribute to the president's legacy and the tumultuous era of the 1960s. By 1973, the Kennedy half-dollar had already been in circulation for nearly a decade. But this particular year is crucial to the story of the coin's value. While the U.S. Mint continued producing Kennedy half-dollars in both regular circulation and proof versions, the 1973 edition stands out for a few unique reasons that you'll want to know about. Point 1. Of the most important aspects of the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar is its composition. In 1965, the U.S. Mint switched the composition of the half-dollar from 90% silver to a more affordable 40% silver and copper mixture. This change meant that the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar, like the previous years following the 1965 shift, was made with a 40% silver content. While the silver content was reduced compared to earlier versions, it still made the coin much more valuable than a standard copper-nickel coin, but there's more to the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar than just its silver content. Over the years, there have been various errors and variations of the coin, some of which have added to its rarity and value. The 1973 version is no exception. The most sought-after variations of the coin are those that were struck with minting errors. For example, if a coin was struck with a double die or features other irregularities, it could be worth exponentially more than the typical coin. These errors are often noticed by keen-eyed collectors, who eagerly snap up coins with unique characteristics. In addition to minting errors, the condition of the coin is also a huge factor in determining its value. Like most coins, the better the condition, the higher the value. If you're lucky enough to find a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar in pristine condition, free from wear and tear, scratches, or discoloration, it could be worth a pretty penny. Collectors often pay a premium for coins that are in near mint or mint condition, so don't overlook your coins, even if they seem to be in average shape. Now, let's talk about why the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar is so valuable today. You might be wondering, what makes this particular coin worth so much? The answer lies in a few key factors. First, the coin's silver content alone gives it a base value. But the real worth comes from its rarity. You see, many coins from this era were produced in high quantities, and while they're still sought after by collectors, the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar is particularly valuable because there are fewer in circulation today in good condition. Plus, the 1973 version is considered one of the last true, silver, Kennedy half-dollars, making it even more attractive to collectors who specialize in precious metal coins. A key to unlocking the true value of a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar is its status as a part of the broader Kennedy half-dollar series. As you may know, Kennedy half-dollars are some of the most beloved and widely collected coins in the U.S. Mint's history. They have a special connection to American history, especially due to their association with President Kennedy, one of the most cherished leaders in U.S. history. This historical significance only adds to the coin's appeal. So, now you're probably asking, how much could a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar actually be worth? Well, if you're lucky enough to have a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar in exceptional condition or one with a unique feature, the value can be quite substantial. Coins in circulation that show wear and tear might still have a value based on their silver content, but those that have been preserved in mint or near mint condition can command higher prices. And the real treasure comes when you find one of those rare, error-struck coins. These can fetch impressive sums at auctions, sometimes attracting intense bidding wars among collectors eager to add them to their collections. Now, for the big reveal, the value of a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar can reach an incredible sum. When the coin is in top condition or features a rare minting error, it can be worth as much as $100,500. Yes, that's right, $100,500. It's astonishing how much a coin that originally only held a face value of 50 cents can appreciate over time, especially when it has historical significance, unique characteristics, and is in great condition. The value of this coin continues to grow because of its rarity and its enduring popularity among collectors. As time passes, finding one of these coins in mint condition becomes increasingly difficult, making those that are still in good shape even more desirable. Collectors and investors alike are willing to pay top dollar for these rare pieces, which only adds to their mystique and allure. So, what does this mean for you as a coin collector or someone just getting started? It means that you should keep an eye out for the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar, especially if you come across one in excellent condition. You never know, what seems like just another coin in your collection could actually turn out to be a hidden gem worth a fortune. In conclusion, the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar is a stunning example of how U.S. coinage continues to captivate collectors with its historical significance, unique design, and potential for incredible value. With its mix of silver content, minting errors, and high demand among collectors, this coin remains one of the most desirable and valuable in the Kennedy half-dollar series. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just starting out, don't overlook the possibility of owning a 1973 Kennedy half-dollar. It could very well be your ticket to owning a piece of American history worth $100,500. Today, we're about to dive into the world of the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar, an absolute gem in the world of numismatics that holds a special place in both history and value. So, grab your magnifying glass and get ready as we uncover the details behind this coin's impressive worth. The Kennedy half-dollar has been one of the most iconic and celebrated coins in the history of U.S. currency. Introduced in 1964, it was designed to honor President John F. Kennedy, who tragically passed away in 1963. The coin's design, created by chief engraver Gilroy Roberts, features a striking portrait of President Kennedy on the obverse, capturing the essence of his youthful vigor and inspiring leadership. The reverse of the coin is equally captivating, with an eagle clutching an olive branch, a symbol of peace and strength. But today, we're focusing on the 1971 version of this iconic coin, a piece that has grown in both value and importance over the years. The 1971 Kennedy half-dollar, like its predecessors, was struck in both regular circulation and proof versions. However, the real intrigue around this particular year comes from its composition and the role it played in shaping the future of U.S. coinage. So, let's take a closer look at why the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar is so valuable today. Before 1971, the Kennedy half-dollar was composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, just like many other U.S. coins at the time. However, starting in 1971, the U.S. Mint made a significant change in the composition of many of its coins, including the Kennedy half-dollar. This was part of a broader effort to address the rising cost of silver. The 1971 Kennedy half-dollar was minted with a 40% silver and 60% copper composition, which made it distinct from earlier versions. Though it still contained silver, it was far less than its predecessors, and this shift in metal composition would continue to affect the coin's value in the years to come. The fact that the 1971 coin was one of the first to feature this new composition gives it a certain historical significance. It marked a shift in U.S. coinage during a time of economic change and upheaval. As silver prices soared, the U.S. Mint had to adapt, and the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar serves as a reminder of that pivotal moment in history. Now, when we talk about the value of the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar, there are several factors that come into play. Like all coins, the condition is crucial. If you find one in pristine condition, it will naturally be worth more than a coin that's seen some wear and tear. The value of these coins is also driven by the fact that they were struck in relatively high numbers. While they weren't produced in the same massive quantities as other coins, they were still more common than some of their other counterparts from earlier years. But here's the kicker: even though these coins were made in relatively large quantities, their historical significance and limited availability in certain conditions make them a highly desirable item among collectors. It's not just about their silver content or their role in the Kennedy half-dollar series, it's about the connection to a pivotal moment in U.S. history and the appeal of owning a coin from the early 1970s. What really makes the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar stand out, though, is the potential for finding a rare version. Some of the most sought-after coins are those that have minting errors or unique characteristics. For example, coins with double dies, off-center strikes, or die cracks can be worth exponentially more than those without these imperfections. If you come across a 1971 Kennedy half-dollar with a minting error, you could be holding a rare find that will certainly capture the attention of serious collectors and investors. And then, of course, there's the ever-important factor of silver. Even though the 1971 coin isn't made of 90% silver like the earlier versions, its 40% silver content still gives it intrinsic value. Silver prices have fluctuated over the years, but the coin's silver content ensures that it has a base value that is higher than a typical non-silver coin. This makes the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar a smart investment for those looking to add precious metal coins to their collection. Now, let's talk about how much a 1971 Kennedy half-dollar can actually be worth today. When we think of rare coins, we often envision those that are truly one-of-a-kind or those that feature major minting errors. But even in great condition, the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar can still fetch a pretty penny. A coin that has been well preserved, one that is free of heavy wear, scratches, or discoloration, could be worth much more than you might expect. Depending on its grade and whether it's a proof version or a regular circulation coin, it could command a significant price on the market. For example, if you happen to have a 1971 Kennedy half-dollar in near mint or uncirculated condition, you could see its value climb considerably. But if you're lucky enough to find one with a rare minting error or a special feature, you could be looking at an even more significant payout. So, here's the real kicker: the highest value for a 1971 Kennedy half-dollar can reach a staggering amount. If you have a coin that's in exceptional condition or one with a unique minting error, it could be worth as much as $97,800. Yes, you heard that right, $97,800 for a single coin. It's an unbelievable amount, but it goes to show just how much collectors are willing to pay for a coin that checks all the boxes: historical significance, rarity, and condition. In conclusion, the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar is more than just a coin, it's a piece of history. It represents a time of change in the U.S. Mint, a period of economic uncertainty, and a lasting tribute to one of America's most revered presidents. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone just starting out, this coin is one you don't want to overlook. With its silver content, potential minting errors, and the connection to the Kennedy legacy, the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar remains a prized possession for collectors around the world. So, keep an eye out for this coin in your collection or when you're out hunting for new finds. Who knows? You could be sitting on a rare treasure worth $97,800. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, happy collecting.